and toot his own horn, and he does an amazing number of things. There's an aircraft carrier named for his dad. Every time the Ronald Reagan comes into port, he goes out and takes care of the guys. Every time. You can also imagine why I emphasize people power versus money power. When you learn this morning that the Romney team has outspent us somewhere between 4 and 9 to 1, depending on how many weeks you want to measure it. And when you realize how totally dishonest some of their ads were. And one of the reasons I was glad that Michael agreed to come along is there been this question raised by the establishment of whether or not I was really in any way active with Ronald Reagan. And I figured if his son was prepared to campaign with me, for any person with an open mind, that should settle that issue totally once and for all. Yesterday, to me, it was kind of an amazing day. We went to the villages to a really, really big rally. And then we came up here and we went to Mass last night. And the bishops had a letter that was read in every Catholic church, I think in America. I know 7,000 churches in Florida. And it says something very, very important. And it's something I want to take a minute to talk about. The Obama administration is engaged in a war against religion. Their decision last week that they would impose on every Catholic institution, every Jewish institution, every Protestant institution, the Obamacare standard of what you have to buy as insurance is a direct violation of freedom of religion and an example of the increasingly dictatorial attitude of this administration. And Cardinal Dolan has said, this is a direct assault on freedom of religion in America and a complete violation of our First Amendment rights. And every American, I want to have you know, on the first day I am president, I will issue an executive order repealing every aspect of infringement upon religious liberty in America in that moment. Let me just note that in a similar circumstance, Governor Romney imposed activities on the Catholic hospitals against their opposition and refused to allow them the right of conscience in Romney Care. Just as, by the way, he eliminated serving kosher food for elderly Jewish residents under Medicaid. I did not know this, it just came out yesterday. The more we dig in, I understand why George Soros in Europe yesterday said, it makes no difference to us whether it's Romney or Obama, we can live with either one. But now Gingrich, that would be a real threat. It's actually so perfect you would think we made it up. But in fact, there's apparently a Reuters video of Soros speaking about his deeply felt belief that as an international billionaire, he's equally happy with Obama and Romney. And I think that makes perfect sense. Goldman Sachs' largest contributions in 2008 were to who?
Romney.
No, not 2000, in 2008. Obama. Goldman Sachs' largest contribution in 2012? Romney. They're equally happy. They just want to be able to take your money, and they don't care who gives it to them. And this is a company, of course, which got $13 billion of your money just in the AIG bailout alone. So I think this race is going to be very clear, and I hope we need people power today. We're closing. Insider Advantage last night said we have closed the gap despite all of the ads and all of the falsehoods. We're within 5 points. We need to make the phone calls. I hope every single one of you is going to put something on Facebook this morning.
Yes.
I hope those of you who are on Twitter are going to tweet this morning.
Yes.
I hope you're going to email every single one of your friends this morning.
Yes.
I know a number of you have already been out phone calling, and they're making hundreds of calls and thousands of calls. And to be old-fashioned, I am, after all, conservative. You're even allowed to talk to people face to face. I'm very excited. I could feel it over the last 3 days, and it's beginning to close again. Just as we had in South Carolina, there was this huge wave of dishonest Romney ads. For a little bit, people backed up and went, wow, boy, if that, I mean, frankly, if that all stuff was true, I wouldn't vote for myself. And then gradually they start to filter it out, they start to sort it out, and they start to realize what's true and what isn't true. Right. And here's the fact. You know, reporters ask, I always find this an interesting part of how the reporters think. They say, what are you going to do after Florida? The last 3 national polls, I'm ahead of Romney. Why would people have any doubt about what I'm going to do? I remember Michael's father in 1976. He lost the first 5 primaries. He didn't actually find the key issue that galvanized the conservative movement until North Carolina. He came within 70 votes of beating the incumbent president of the United States. Wow. The idea that the conservative movement is going to roll over and give up and allow someone, it's not going to happen. So just so that the news media can relax, okay? Because it's very important that they not be too tense. You know, I mean, I did Charlie Rose and George Stephanopoulos this morning. I could tell there was a certain tension and anxiety and an uncertainty. So I want to take a minute and reassure them. The conservative movement in the United States, which in its modern form started with Barry Goldwater, and I went to a Goldwater organizing meeting and training session in Columbia, South Carolina in 1964. It then grew with Ronald Reagan, and I worked with him. One of the great experiences of my life was meeting with him in 1974, and he'd come to campaign. I was running for Congress. The Georgia Republicans were so thrilled to have anybody run for Congress that they let me take your dad to the airport. His plane was late. This was an earlier, simpler era. He was flying commercial. He had 1 California trooper with him. The plane was about an hour late. He rapidly got bored listening to me, and he said, "Would you like to see how I make speeches?" And I sat there just listening carefully for about 40 minutes to the greatest speechmaker of our time, and I learned a lot, which I've used ever since. So this is a fabric of it. In 1995, Nancy Reagan at the Goldwater Institute was very generous, and she said, just as Barry gave the torch to Ronnie, Ronnie has passed on the torch to Newt. Time we nominate a moderate, we lose. You know, so 1996 we nominated a moderate. Bill Clinton wins re-election by a big margin. 2008 we nominated a moderate. Barack Obama wins. Why would anybody in the establishment think that a Massachusetts moderate, which is a liberal by Republican standards, pro-abortion, pro-gun control, pro-tax increase, pro-gay rights, why would they think that he's going to be able to debate Barack Obama? You can't debate Romneycare and Obamacare. I mean, you can't make a big enough difference to matter. In fact, the guys that helped Romney write it have said publicly, it's the same bill. On the other hand, you take individual liberty, you take something like patient